I wanted to say a few things about discussions, interactions with people, conversations with people, arguments, debates, um, just in general, talking to people. Um, and what I'm going to say, I think most everything of what I want to say, it can be applied to just about any type of situation, just about any type of discussion or communication that we have with someone else. So keep that in mind. I guess what prompted me to want to discuss this, and uh, the main reason, and hopefully the encouragement that you'll get, is that you'll use what I'm saying for this purpose, and that is having a discussion, an argument, a debate, a conversation with someone that you disagree with. We all have different personalities. Some personalities click pretty well. Other personalities click really well together. And some personalities, they just clash terribly. We, as people, need to be aware of that and try to learn how to recognize someone else's personality. And there's books on this. I certainly can't go over the basics right now because I don't know that much about it. I've read a few things, but I can't explain it. But you just have to learn by trial and error and try to figure out what you can do to help facilitate your communication in the best possible way with someone else that may have a personality or may have something about them that is just conflicting with you. Second thing, don't take it personally because there most of the time there's nothing necessarily wrong with someone else having a different personality or different way of talking or doing things than you do. Who are you to say that the way you do something is the right way? Who are they to say the way they do something is the right way? So, if there's a difference in your approaches and how you converse, um, just deal with it. Don't let that be a part of your conversation. Don't let that be a part of your argument. Don't let that come into the mix and be a factor that even just a little bit overrides the points that you're trying to make. Push it to the side and just work through that as best as you can. So, again, a lot of what I'm saying can apply in a lot of different types of conversations. Specifically, what I want to focus on is spiritual conversations. And I've seen, I've seen, I've heard, I've had conversations with Christians, people that claim to be Christians, that I don't know the right word, but you know what I'm trying to say. they weren't very friendly. They weren't very kind conversations. They weren't very loving. There was not much understanding or love uh, behind what they were saying, the points they were making. There was much judgment, and the true nature of their argument was not trying to get their point across, um, in which they could try to cause you to think about something from their perspective. They were more, they had the attitude more of they're trying to force their belief on you. Can't do that. Number one, it doesn't work. Number two, it's not the right way to do things. We talk to people, we've got to be very conscientious of our heart and know how we feel when we're talking to this person. Do we have judgment? Do we have hate? Do we have dislike for them? If we do, we need to change that, and we need to focus on points that we're trying to make, and then listening to the points that they're trying to make. And I've also heard and seen and talked to people that weren't necessarily spiritual or Christian, and they too also had a very poor attitude, unloving, unkind, trying to force their opinions, their views, and it's just not the best way to do things. If for a lot of Christians, what I think as Christians, we need to evangelize. We need to talk to people when the opportunity arises about spiritual matters. What I would highly encourage and what I try to do is read books, learn up on critical thinking, logical fallacies, logical reasoning, argumentation. And people hear the word argument, argue, and that sounds negative, but that's not what I'm meaning when I say it. An argument is not that. It's simply trying to prove your point, trying to give reason for what you're saying. That's an argument. There's nothing negative whatsoever about an argument. So read up on what are good arguments and what are fallacious arguments, so you can identify when someone else you're talking to starts to go off on a tangent and starts becoming personal, starts changing the subject, in some way changes the dynamic of the discussion, the argument that you're trying to have. And the same goes for yourself. Be aware that you don't do that yourself. So read up on that and make sure that when you do try to prove your point and give reason for your views, your beliefs, you're doing so in a proper way, and you're doing it in a concise, logical, easy to understand way for other people. Because otherwise, you're going to turn people off You're not going to get your point across. Um, if you at all have a chance of causing them, well, one, to persuade them to change their view, but at the very least, cause them to contemplate what you're saying. And by the way, you should also do the exact same thing. I don't care what the discussion is about. I don't care what your belief is. I don't care how right you think you are. You need to listen and contemplate, think about what someone else is saying. Once you do that, then if you then decide that your original thought and belief was correct, great, so be it. But do not ever pass up the opportunity to listen and consider and contemplate what someone else is saying. Because I can assure you, nobody out there in this world is right about everything. Nobody. I was wrong about things. And I knew I was right, but some things got pointed out to me years ago. I thought about it. I studied on it. I found out I was wrong. So those things can happen, and they do happen, and we should be thankful for them. And if you have enough conversations with people, you're going to have that happen. You may not change your views 100%, but you may change your beliefs somewhat. So the point is, uh, listen to what someone else is saying. If for no other reason, do to others what you want them to do to you. You want them to listen to you and your argument. Well, then, my goodness, listen to them. Listen to their argument and contemplate it. Actively listen. Ask them questions, legitimate questions. But I guess the main point I want to get across is it's so important how we communicate with others. What we say is important, and how we say it is up for debate. Is equally important, is more important, I don't know. It's at least equally as important as what we say. How we say something, how we communicate, how we argue, how we reason, talking to someone is it'll absolutely make or break a conversation or a point you're trying to make. There are very few people, very few of us, and I'm one of them, that can really look past um, a, a negative attitude, a personal attack, uh, a fallacious argument to try to see the real point that someone's trying to make and carry on a debate with someone. So you're going to get nowhere with that. So as you go about and you want to talk to someone, go into it with one, not necessarily that you're trying to convince them of something. Go into it with the attitude you're trying to learn something about them, and you're trying to learn what it is that they believe. How do you know that the two of you have differing views if you don't listen to them and hear what they have to say? That's what gets me and is so absurd and ridiculous. People get just a little bit of information and they take that smidgen of information and they think they know everything about someone. And they put this huge judgment on someone based on just a little bit of information. That's stupid. Don't do that. That is unintellectual, if that's a word. That's just stupid. Listen to what someone has to say. And then after you listen and you discuss and you both reason and argue your points, then you start contemplating and then you make your decisions on what you believe. And it's only then that you do that. And then if you still believe the same thing you believed an hour earlier, so be it. Great. You're no worse for the wear of talking to them for an hour. There are certain situations, certain topics that Christians are horrible at discussing with people with a loving heart. Not my opinion, it's a fact. I'm a Christian. I get put out with myself if I find myself leaning towards that and doing that. When you discuss things with someone that maybe doesn't believe what you believe, your number one priority is not trying to convince them. That's not your number one priority. Your number one priority is to communicate with love the truth. If they contemplate it, great. If they don't, they don't. If they change their mind, change their beliefs, great. If they don't, that's fine. Your job is to communicate with love, not fake love, not condescending love, sarcastic love, genuine love of what the truth is. This is so vitally important if you're interested at all in having spiritual discussions with people, and especially with people that are not Christians or have a different belief than you do, and you desire that they learn something different. This is vitally important. If you don't go into a conversation with that type of attitude, you're not going to be successful. So, to sum up, be very aware of how you go about communicating with people, because it is so vitally important. There's lots of little nuances. The attitude that someone else has, the state of mind that they're in, the type of beliefs that they have, their past, their background, where they've come from, is going to possibly shape their beliefs. There's all kinds of things, and you can't know all of them, but you need to do the best you can to educate yourself on individuals that you're communicating with and you're trying to have a discussion with. And if you want to try to be successful, and the success is getting someone else to listen and contemplate what you're saying. That's success. Success is not necessarily that they change their belief. That would be wonderful if what you're telling them is the truth. But your job is not to convince them. That is not success. Success is presenting to them the truth in such a way that they are open to listening to what you're saying. Keep that in mind. Because if you can't do that, they're not going to hear the words you're saying. They're not going to care what you're saying. So please be aware of that. Whether you're talking to someone on the phone, you're talking to them face to face, you're writing them a letter. Anytime you're communicating with someone, be very conscientious of how you go about doing it. Because that is just as important, if not more important, than the subject matter that you're trying to discuss. Thank you very much for your attention, and have a great day.